Hey guys, it's Sebastian from AskSebby, and today we are going to talk about what cards you can have multiple of, what cards I have multiple of, and the general policies around all of this. Before we dive into it, give this video a thumbs up, lets me know that you like stuff like this, and also, if it is a bit echoey, I wanted to apologize. The room that we got upgraded into, this overwater room, is interestingly shaped, so noise travels weirdly. One final side note is if you want to see our vacation, if you want to see what we're up to, go follow our Instagram, AskSebby, and we have a bunch of stories over there. With that out of the way, let's dive into it. The reason I wanted to talk about this is because oftentimes when I talk about having multiples of the same card, people generally get very confused because it's not something that people generally think about, and it's just something that you don't get told that you can do. For a lot of people, they generally don't have much information or knowledge about credit cards, and what they end up hearing is typically from parents or other friends that might not be as informed as well. So it's a lot of rumors and things being passed around. With most of the major issuers, you are going to be allowed to have multiples of the same card. The issue is going to be how you get these cards. So for some of them, if you have that card, you cannot apply for another version of that card. It'll automatically get rejected because that's part of their algorithm and it just won't be approved, or they won't even look at it. There are going to be some exceptions to this, so Discover is a pretty good one where you can have multiple Discover It cards and they don't really seem to care. As long as you space them out and as long as you follow Discover's rules, which tend to be about 12 months, give or take, you should be fine. With other issuers like Bank of America, it gets a bit interesting too because for some of their cards, they don't really seem to mind if you have multiple of them, but for other ones like the Alaska card, given the really good sign-up bonus, they have a lot more stringent rules. Part of that too is because with the Alaska business card or the personal card, it gets you pretty close to a one-way business class flight on something like Cathay Pacific, which would run you substantially more if you were paying cash. With other issuers like American Express, you can apply for multiple of the same card, but you typically don't get that intro bonus again. The rationale is that the card makes sense for you and it ends up being a keeper card. In some cases, you do need to put enough time between those two applications, otherwise the system will read it as a duplicate. One reminder is that these rules can change at any point. They can change tomorrow, they can change in 1 week, so I wouldn't really focus on that too much. What I would end up focusing more on is the fact that with most of these issuers, and if not all of them, you can typically product change your cards into a second version of that card. So if you already have, let's say, the Hilton Aspire card, you can typically upgrade the Hilton no annual fee card to a second Aspire card. As a reminder, if you product change cards, you do not get an intro bonus because you didn't sign up for it. So if you product change from the Freedom card to the Chase Sapphire Preferred, you don't get the Chase Sapphire Preferred intro bonus just by upgrading. This might change in the future, but as of 2019, and as I expect to stay the same for 2020, I don't really see them giving you upgrade offers. With Chase, they sometimes do it if they're trying to get you out of a card that is grandfathered, but really not the case otherwise. American Express sometimes does have upgrade offers, but it gets a bit more complicated there with the strategy that you might want to take. So if you haven't had that card before that they are offering you an upgrade to, then I generally don't recommend upgrading because you lose out on that intro bonus. Just by you doing a product change or upgrade or whatever you want to call it, you don't get a bonus unless it specifically says so. So the big obvious question is, why would anyone do this? Why would you want to have multiple of the same cards? That doesn't really make any sense, especially when you factor in that some of these cards have annual fees. So I think it falls into two different zones. The first zone is going to be cards that don't have annual fees, but where you spend a lot of money on those categories where it makes mathematical sense. Number two, on the flip side, is cards that you get value from typically by paying an annual fee without having to spend a ton of money. So it's not really contingent on your spend. We'll do the first group first because I think it makes a lot more sense and I think it's easier to understand. And I'll also talk about some cards I have that fall into this category. So Freedom cards, Discover It cards, and any other 5% back cards are the most easiest way to understand this because a lot of them have caps. So for example, for someone who is going to shop a lot at those categories for whatever specific card you have, you might go beyond that cap. So in that case, it might make sense to have a second Discover card, a second Freedom card, or whatever else. Running into a more specific example, let's say you are someone who buys a lot of office equipment because you are the office manager at a startup, and with something like the Chase in Cash card, yes, you do get 5x back, but there is a cap. So how do you maximize value when there's a cap? You either downgrade cards or product change cards in order to get a higher threshold. The funny thing too is that oftentimes for these people, it's spend that they are doing where they get reimbursed for it. For me, I have 2 Discover It cards because it just makes sense. Even if I'm not maximizing every quarter, the alternative is having a Discover It Miles card, which doesn't really add any value. At least with the 5x back, with the It's card, there is some value rather than nothing. Freedom card is another good example here where I end up having 5x back categories, and the benefit of Chase is that you can oftentimes product change between the Freedom and the CFU, Freedom Unlimited, if you get more value from that, and their ecosystem is really accommodating for these product changes. The final card I have multiples of, I'm not going to talk about for too long because you can't apply for it anymore, but I think it's a very good example of why you might want to double down when the card is good. This is going to be the Better Balance Rewards card by Bank of America, where you end up getting $30 per quarter per card every time you use it for a 3-month period and you pay off the card in full. So this is something most of us do anyways. So about $120 per card that you have. Right now I have 4 of these cards. I used to have more of them, but Bank of America closed some of them when they enacted some new rules about having 4 cards in a 24-month period. But it's a pretty good card. I'm getting value every year just by having that automated Amazon reload. Within this first category, there obviously are going to be some cards that have annual fees that also fall into this. So if you're someone who does a lot of grocery store spend, you might have multiple gold cards because it makes sense because you're hitting that cap anyways. Same thing with something like the Blue Cash Preferred card, which has a cap, but if you're getting value, you're going to come out ahead. For this channel and for most other things I do in life, the goal is to run the numbers, to think about it intelligently, and to make sure that you're actually getting value. I'm not going to go to a buffet if I'm not hungry. I'd rather meet up with people afterwards for drinks because it's not really optimal. Before we dive into the second group of cards, if you are someone that wants to learn about any cards from pretty much any issuer and you want to support our channel, we do have links that are on our website, AskSebby.com, as well as down below in the description box. Diving into the second group, for me, this is going to be cards that have annual fees, but you derive most of the value just by paying that off. So you don't need to spend a lot of money on the card in order to get value. The easiest example of this, to me at least, is going to be Hotel Keeper cards, where you end up getting that anniversary night by virtue of paying that annual fee in the long term. So you're getting this night every year by paying something like a $95 annual fee for most of these cards. If you're someone that does even 1 or 2 trips a year, you're probably going to be able to redeem that night at a hotel that costs more than $95. Oftentimes I look for about $200 or $300, so there's a lot of value there. Another way to think of it is that you're using this annual fee to buy the certificate that you're redeeming for more value. Obviously, if you're someone that doesn't travel, if you don't care about that hotel brand, if you're someone who doesn't like hotels, if you only do Airbnbs, then this isn't going to be helpful. For me personally, I'd happily have multiple Hyatt cards or multiple IHG cards because based off my travel habits, I'm getting value there. But for other people, I do recognize that it might not be the case. This is why I have multiple American Express, Hilton, Aspire cards, because it's a card that makes sense based off my travel habits, and that certificate night itself is already worth the annual fee. Even if they got rid of that travel incidental credit and that Hilton credit, as long as I still got diamond status and that weekend night, I'm actually a happy camper. My rationale is that I've been using that at places that run $700, $800, $2,000, and it's places that I want to go anyways, and if I didn't have this, I would probably be paying that out of pocket, and I wouldn't be able to spend as much time there. Just because I have that money, do I really want to spend it like that, when there are ways that I can spend maybe 10 cents on the dollar for that same exact experience that requires maybe a bit more legwork, but for me it's worth it, especially when you can do that legwork just while watching YouTube or watching Netflix. Instead of reading Facebook or basketball stats or scores, this is what I've been doing instead. Right now I have 2 Hilton Aspire cards. In the long term, I'm looking to have 3 of those and then 2 of the Marriott Brilliance cards. In case you're wondering, there aren't really that many airline cards that fall into this just because of the benefits and how the airline cards work. The only one that I can really think of on the spot is going to be the Southwest Priority card by Chase, just because of the credits you're getting as well as the points you're getting by keeping that card. So it might be a slight money maker, but it's substantially smaller. For a lot of the other airline cards, the value tends to be based off the flights you take and whether you check bags and how you care about priority boarding. So pretty much based off your spend and number of flights more than just getting value on the spots. With all of that said, my question for you guys is, what cards do you have multiples of and which ones would you consider having multiples of in the long term? I'm expecting a lot of freedoms and discover it cards, but let me know in the comments down below. If you have any questions that weren't answered in the video that relate to the topic that we talked about, I typically try to answer them if I have time. I might also do an FAQ blog post thing if there's a lot of questions, just so I don't need to keep copy pasting the same thing to 20, 30 people. As a reminder, if you want to learn about any cards, we have links on our website, AskSebby.com, and also down below in the description box in that little link area. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. It really helps us out. If you know anyone else who'd benefit from what we just talked about, feel free to share this with them. It'll probably help them out. But otherwise, hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time.
The waters look super choppy.
So you don't want to go snorkeling?
No, it's also raining again.
But it's fun when it's raining.
Are you going to save me?
It'll be fun. You have a life jacket on. The odds of you drowning with a life jacket on are so low.
But there's still a chance.
Just because we're sharks, it's fine. Test, 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 test. Coffee time of Sebby. 1, 2, 3. Kind of an echo, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. BitConnect. Hey, hey, hey. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, 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 hello. Hey guys, it's Sebastian from AskSebby.